We can get an interference pattern from two laser beams that originate from the same source if they have a very acute angle of incidence onto each other. If we were to dim the source of the beams to the point where one photon at a time is reaching the screen, we would still get the interference pattern appear, but accumulated over time. And if we get two separate laser sources to be in perfect phase with each other, where their phase synchronicity never changes, theoretically we can use them to get the same interference pattern. If all the previous is correct, here is the big question. If we were to dim just one of the sources to the point where it's releasing only one photon at a time, by just altering the voltage while maintaining the same intensity, frequency, and phase, what would happen to the interference pattern? Here is what our theory predicts would happen. Instantly, an interference pattern would appear on the screen, but at half brightness. And it will be due to the photons released from the source that is not dimmed, because the dimmed source would be scoring photon hits on the screen one at a time that are hardly noticeable. And if this really does happen, do you know what it would mean? It means it's not actually the photons that are interfering with each other, but rather their paths, or their possible path. Because when we assume that this imaginary predating possible path is a real thing, we can also use it to explain quantum entanglement as an entanglement of two of those possible paths, where they are the ones dictating a polarization for propagation for the photon prior to the photon being released. We can also use this idea of a predating possible path to also explain any quantum eraser or delayed choice quantum eraser experiment. But more importantly, if the speed of light is brought upon by those possible paths, we can then jump to the conclusion that using two sets of possible paths to make a communication via interference theoretically should be a communication faster than the speed of light, if not instantaneous, because we would be using the medium itself that inhibits things from moving faster than the speed of light to make the communication. In other words, when we interfere two beams and then change the polarization of one of the beams from its origin, then the effect of that change on the interference pattern should be happening faster than the speed of light, or faster than the photons reaching the screen. And if all of this is true, much more importantly, it is now clear that there may be a form of communication way faster than the speed of light, if not instantaneous, which would explain the Fermi paradox. By now, we can assume that other intelligent life forms out there would be manipulating the polarization of predating possible path in a way to deliver a message. And all we will need to do to detect it is to send a continuous single-tone signal down towards the ground over a long enough distance while rotating and trying different frequencies to see if we detect an interference that is consistent with being non-random, which would confirm a message detection. See, now by treating the predating possible path as the real physical thing, we have been very quickly able to explain the measurement problem, the wave-particle duality, quantum entanglement, any quantum eraser experiment, and the Fermi paradox. Would love to hear your feedback on this quantum mechanics interpretation, and in my next video I will show you 4 experiments that can prove this interpretation correct. and will also show you how this interpretation relates to special and general relativity. Thank you for watching and check the description for the next video.